I'm Sunny and welcome to my channel. I can't believe that's July already. That means that six months have already gone and it's now more than halfway through the year, which is crazy. So I wanted to share with you all my reads that I completed from January to June. And this will consist of novels that I've read, manga, and manhwa. So the first ones that I want to start with is the novels. I completed a fairly good amount of novels, and I think it's because a lot of them were faster reads and they weren't as long. So I have a lot of them were like only about like 300 pages, and then the ones that were more than 300, like 500 or so pages, they take me a little bit longer to read. So you'll see here that I have some physical copies. Other ones I read digitally through either Kindle Unlimited or Libby, and I will point those out when I get to them. I will also put like a picture of the books for you to see. I'm just gonna go chronologically in the books that I finished from January until now. The first book that I finished was The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. And this is a book that I borrowed through the Libby app and I read it through Kindle. The lore behind this novel is that the kingdom that our protagonist, Mina, lives in has to offer a girl each year to the sea god in order to appease him so that they can live another year without storms or without like hardships on their land. Mina's village is on the coast of where they usually offer girls to the sea god. And so usually she'll see girls being offered. The villagers usually choose who will be the sea god's bride, and they usually choose the sea god's bride through some sort of attribute that the girl has. Like they're very pretty, or there's a strength in them that the villagers believe will appease the sea god as a bride. And this year, the one that they chose is a girl who Mina's brother is courting, or like they're not courting, but they very much love each other and they want to be together, but they can't because she was chosen to be the sea god's bride. And so Mina decides to take it upon herself to sacrifice herself and become the sea god's bride. And then we are brought into the realm of the sea god, and we see how Mina learns about how the sea god is being cursed and what she can do to undo that curse with the help of the sea god's aides and also those people, like those that she meets along the way. I really enjoyed it because there's like a blend of Korean folklore with fantasy, and it gave a really spirited away feel, like vibes, like especially the realm that she goes into. The people that she meets. There's also like this bittersweet feeling because the people that is in this realm are like those that have passed away. So there may be people that she has known in the past that's in this world because they have passed away in her world. And so I really much enjoyed how like fast paced the storyline was and how much it just like, I don't know, it just took me on a ride, I would say. Like I feel like it wasn't too deep. And maybe it's not meant to be too deep, but I definitely enjoyed the characters and the storyline and how Mina tries to, again, like undo the curse. I did give this story a 4-star because I don't know, I'm very, like my rating is very mood based. There's no like reason behind it. I think it's just how I'm feeling at the time or how the story is moving me, either through the characters, the plot line, or the language. I will say that I usually give my books a range from 3 to 5. If there is a book that I'm not feeling or like I just lose interest in, if I'm like 30% into the story and I'm just not feeling it, I will just DNF it. I don't have the time to finish a book that just doesn't interest me. So my ratings will usually never be below a 3 unless I hated it so much that I needed to finish reading it because I just did not like it and I wanted to see it through. But that hasn't been the case yet. So I gave The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea a 4. I thought that it was a solid book. Oh, and then, okay, so 3 means that it was good. Like, I enjoyed it. It was a fun read. Like, you know, I feel neutral about it. 4 would be like, I wouldn't mind recommending this book to someone if this is the genre or vibes that they would like. And then a 5-star is like, it was really good. Like, to me, it was so good that, I don't know, I just get excited when I think about it again, or I get giddy and I want to reread certain parts that I've marked down or annotated that I'm like, oh yes, I want to go back to that again and reread it. It was a solid 4. I would definitely recommend this book to people who enjoy a fantasy, spirited away vibe that's just like taking you along for the ride. The next one I'm going to talk about is actually a series. It's a trilogy. It's the Emily Wilde series. So I read the first volume last year and I really enjoyed it, and I was like, I enjoyed this too much. I need to savor it. It was very hard to just not want to keep reading each series. Okay, so I'll just upfront say that this whole series was a 5 for me. Like, I love the whole series. Let me talk a little bit about it first. So Emily Wilde is a scholar, professor who is studying fairy folklore. She travels anywhere that she hears that there's fairy happenings or fairies related situations that is of interest for her. And each book represents like something that she's working on at the moment. So for example, like in Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands, like she's trying to map out portals that can lead you into fairyland, but also lead you to other places in the world. So for example, you could be in Ireland, but if you take a fairy portal, you could end up like in England or something like that. So that's sort of what she's trying to do in this book. She is definitely a interesting character. We are reading this novel in a diary format. So basically, Emily is recounting the things that happens, and she writes it in this book for us to read. And so we see her perspective. I really enjoy Emily's writing. I feel like it might not be for everyone because she does annotate things. She talks a lot about fairy studies and how she's feeling about certain things. She's also very socially awkward. She rather focus on her work than interact with others. But then in her line of work, she really does need to interact with other people in order to learn about the fairy folklore in the villages or the places that she visits. It's funny because along with her, she has 2 characters that's always following her. One is Wendell Bamblebee, who is her rival colleague, but you can tell, like, I mean, it's a love story between both of them. So, like, there's like a love story between them both. The minute he arrives on the scene, you know that he likes her. And it's just so cute because like his personality is he is lazy, he wants everyone to do things for him, but he also will do anything for her. I don't know, I just really like Wendell. He's just I like his character. He just doesn't care. Like, he will do whatever he wants to do. But at the same time, because he loves Emily so much, like, he will do anything for her and listen to her as well. And the other character that's always with her is her dog, Shadow. And oh my gosh, he's so cute. I mean, he's so sweet. Like, I don't know. I just love the bond that she has with Shadow. It's so cute. And he's definitely like her protector. So I read volume 1 last year, really enjoyed it. When I initially heard about this series through other booktubers, I was surprised by how some of them explain it as like a cozy fantasy, because I guess I don't get that vibe. There's like whimsical to it, but it's also dark and creepy. Fairies are dark creatures. They have a mind of their own. They do whatever they want, and everything about them is very nonsensical. When it comes to cozy, I feel like it's usually the stakes are not as high. Like, things are just okay. You're just you're just moving along, enjoying life. But in this case, like in this series, I feel like things are always happening. Like, Emily is always putting herself into tough situations that she needs to get out of due to her curiosity as a researcher. I found that for the second volume, which is Map of the Other Lands, I found it like creepy, and there were some parts that gave me like chills and goosebumps where I was like, oh my gosh, why am I reading this at nighttime right now? Just love the descriptions in this series. It just really took me along for a ride. I can imagine a lot of the stuff that she was writing down as Emily like finds herself further into the fairy world. She finds herself so much more fascinated because this is what she wants, but at the same time she is starting to be more afraid of the fairy world. I feel like this book showed her even more terrible things about the fairyland. I don't want to spoil this series too much to you, so that's why I'm being a little bit vague about what's happening. But I will just say that the stakes get high. Like, I feel like with each book, the stakes get higher. And I'm trying to remember what happened a little bit in the Map of the Other Lands, because I read that earlier on in the year. So I'm trying to remember without spoiling too much. But I would just say that the vibes were, to me, were definitely creepier. And then for the final volume, the third book, Compendium of Lost Tales, we dive further into the fairy world. So this is like the book where Emily is actually in the fairy world, and this is where she starts seeing the darkness of fairy. It's like nonsensical, but it's just so dark and creepy, and like, I just got a lot of like chill. Like, even right now when I'm thinking about, like, I got chills just, and you'll see here, like, even this depicts a little bit like the eyes, like, it's just creepy. I don't know, like, when Emily first stepped into the fairy world, she's so excited. She's like, I want to be here. But at the same time, she had a sort of denial. Like, she knows how dangerous it is, how dangerous fairies are, but her fascination with being in this world, just like, and wanting to research everything and to, find out everything about this world and why, like, how it works, made her like sort of blind to the danger, or made her want to ignore the danger. I enjoyed this volume as well. Like, I think that it wrapped up the story very well. Characters from the other books and other villages came into this book as well, into this final series, which I was really appreciative of, because they were like some of the characters that I really like Poe makes an appearance again. I love Poe. And even Snowbell, which was in the second volume. Snowbell is also like a creepy fairy that has a lot of teeth. Like, I just imagine him as being really tiny with a bunch of teeth, and he was also super cute. One of my favorite characters in this book was Lord Terran. He's like Wendell's uncle or something like that. And I don't know why I really liked him. Like, even though he's scary, like, you never know what he's thinking, but he's like very much in love with his partner, and he listens to what his partner says as well. And his partner is human. That, like, I'm like, I would love to hear a story between him and his partner. His partner is named Callum, and I wish there could be another story about them both, because I would love to see, like, how did they fall in love with each other? I just want to know that so badly. Like, please, can we have a story about them? When I finished this series, I just felt like I felt empty, because I wish that I could continue to stay in this world and follow Emily, Wendell, and Shadow. Like, there's just so much still that can happen. Heather Foster created a world where I feel like I wouldn't mind if she were to dive in it with like sequels, novellas, or something. Like, please just like, spoil me a little bit more and write some more about this world. Like, I want to hear more about the characters, especially Lord Terran and Callum. Like, I really enjoy this world so much. If you're into like fairy worlds that actually I feel like depicts fairies pretty in a way, like in a nature and a dark, nonsensical way that and like, if you don't dive in too deep about it, like, I think you would enjoy it. The way that Heather depicts Emily's writing, using footnotes and sort of having a scientific way about it, but also writing like descriptions really well, I really enjoyed. But it might not be for everyone, so if you don't like the scientific vibes that it gives, how Emily is studying the fairies and how Emily looks at things in an analytical way, then you might not enjoy it. But I really enjoyed it. I love this series. I wouldn't mind rereading it again. I tabbed a lot of parts that I really enjoyed, so I might just go back and read those parts again. The next series I'm going to talk about is The House Across the Lake. And this is a thriller with, I would say, some unexpected supernatural elements that made it an interesting read for me. I don't know why I keep trying out Riley Sager. I think it's because some of the booktubers that I watch, they mention his stories a lot, and so he usually writes about woman characters. I have like a love and hate relationship with the characters that he writes, because I read a different book by him as well, and I'm just like, I don't know why I keep going back to him. I guess I keep trying to give his stories a chance, because like the premise of the stories always sound interesting, and then when I read it, I find myself disappointed in a way. Like, I thought that it would be better than this, if that makes sense. I usually don't really read thriller, but this past year to now, like, I've been wanting to expand the genres that I read. And so thrillers was one of them that I was interested in. I'm definitely seeing how thrillers work. So it's usually a very slow build up. I feel like the first 60% or 70% of the story is very much a build up to what's going to happen, like giving you clues on certain things. And then like the last like 20% of the book is just like a whole, like everything's happening at once, so much action, and then boom, it just ends. That's what I've been feeling for thrillers, and I don't know how I feel about it. I think maybe I'm just hoping that I'll find a thriller that is just so good that I'm like, I cannot put it down. Because I feel like for these, like it took me a while to read it because of the slow build up. Sorry, I didn't even talk about what The House Across the Lake is about. So The House Across the Lake is about Casey Fletcher, who runs away, like, or is forced to run away to her family's lake house. And this lake house consists of, I think, like about like 5 houses or something that surrounds a lake, and that lake is called Lake Green. There's sort of like a creepiness that Casey feels about the lake. It just seems so dark and deep that it gives off like these creepy vibes. So Casey goes to the lake house to hide from paparazzi, to hide from the public, because she's an actress and has basically gotten herself in hot waters with the stuff that she said. And when she goes there, she finds out that there's a new house across her house. So like this is her family's house. And then this is like the new house, or like I think it's like it was like revamped or something like that, but it's like a modern house. And like this house is like what you see here. Like you can basically see everything that's happening in the house, because the part that's facing the lake is all glass. I think there's only certain parts that are hidden, but basically what happens is that a couple moves into this house, Catherine and Tom Royce, and Casey rescues Catherine one day from drowning, and she was like a former supermodel, so she knew who this person was. There's something a little bit suspicious about Catherine because she's drowning, but apparently Catherine should be a good swimmer. So because of the way that Catherine was acting when Casey saved her, she starts spying on Catherine and Tom with her binoculars, and things start uncovering in a way that she starts becoming concerned for Catherine and wondering when she could take action. So that's basically the premise of the story, where like Casey is hoping that she can help Catherine, who may be in a situation where she could be harmed by her husband, who acts like very sus around them. Like he acts like the type of person that is controlling or wants to keep Catherine away from people. I think it was okay. Like I said, like I found the characters to be okay. The storyline was okay. I think the added supernatural elements to the story was what interested me the most, because it adds to the twists that happens in this story that made me go, oh, okay, I kind of want to know what's going on. And it's also interesting because the story shows things that are happening. There's like sections. So like it'll show, if you see here, like before. And then there's the now. It'll talk about like what happened in the past. And then now, and then it skips to like what's happening now. And then as you keep going from before to now, and it gets closer and closer to the timelines, then like joining together. I thought that was an interesting aspect to the story that I enjoyed, where I was like, oh wait, what's happening? Where we were starting to learn how the before and the now becomes connected was what I thought was interesting about the story. But otherwise, yeah, it was an okay read for me. That's why I gave it a 3. So the next one that I'm going to talk about that I finished was on Kindle Unlimited, and that is Babel. Before I forget, let me start with what Babel is about. So Babel is about our character Robin. Swift, who is a Chinese orphan, and he is taken in by Professor Richard Lovell. Professor Lovell takes him to London and raises him with the expectations that he will be going to Oxford to join the Royal Institute of Translation. So there's elements of magic, I would say, in this story as well, because they use words to inscript onto silver. The silver does things to help things run in the world. And London is one of the cities that uses silver the most. And England is basically the place that has a lot of power over the distribution of silver. I found that this was I felt like it was very slow build up to things that are happening, because it takes us from Robin is younger until when he goes to the institute, or until he goes to Oxford. R.F. Kuang focuses a lot on history and on language, and I found it fascinating. Like, I really enjoyed all the information on language and felt like I could relate to it as someone who does speak 2 languages, and I'm also learning a different language as well. And so it was just fascinating to me how they used words and languages to combine together to make like silver work and stuff like that. Just like the world building was very interesting to me, although I was not very much as interested in the history portion of it. I felt like it was just too much information for me to really process, and I've heard that that's what our Kwong tends to do, is that she focuses a lot on history, and she is very much like very good at, I feel like this is her thing, like she loves history, and I love that for her. But for me, it sometimes became too much. To me, it felt like it dragged on a little bit when it came to the history, but I do enjoy how the history, the languages, and the characters are why things are moving in the story. This book did take me longer to read because I felt like it dragged on in some parts. I also struggled with how much racism and classism, like those sorts of things, and discrimination. There's just a lot of those things that happen that, while I could relate to it, at the same time, it was just so frustrating for me to see that I had to like pause sometimes to take some time to cool down from those emotions that I was feeling. I didn't feel like it was a bad thing that was happening there. Like, I think it added to the story, because that is most likely that's sort of the reality of some of the things that are happening maybe during this time and stuff like that. And it's even something that happens now, right? And so I liked how she didn't shy away from showing that, and how Robin is trying to fit himself into this world as someone who is mixed. So he is Chinese and white. Adding into it the friends that he makes along the way, like his cohort, who are women and people of color, it definitely added onto an element of how he tries to perceive his world through his lens, through theirs, and also through that of white people. There was just so much emotions, like from me, and for how I felt, and then also for how I felt for Robin and the denial that he felt at times, because he just wanted to enjoy the college life, to make Professor Lovell proud, because Professor Lovell is the one who's funding him and gave him this life. So that internal struggle that he had as he's trying to figure out what he wanted to do in the future was definitely very interesting to see. Emotion wise, I got emotional, like as we got more towards the end, like with anger and frustration, but then at the end, like just like a feeling of, like, I don't want to spoil it, but I just all these feelings that happen from the buildup of how Robin's feeling and what he's fighting for. It's just, and his like friends, and yeah, just everything. I enjoyed it. I did give it a 4, because I think the reason why I gave it a 4 is because it did drag on for me. I thought that I would be more interested in the history because it's about translation, it's about languages, but sometimes I felt like it bogged it down a little bit too much for me, and I found myself like falling asleep when I was reading certain parts of it and not able to really want to read further because of that. But I kept pushing myself because I found it fascinating, and I sort of wanted to see what was happening and what decisions Robin was going to make. But it was good. I would recommend it for anyone who enjoys history, languages, the internal struggle of someone who is facing adversity from those around him, but at the same time, like, he wants to fit in, he wants to find a world for himself. So what do you do then? The next novel that I'm going to talk about is Paladin's Grace, and I read this through Libby. Paladin's Grace is about Stephen, who is a paladin of the Saint of Steel. What happens is that the god that he serves dies. He basically is left with no purpose, and he is serving the Temple of the White Rats because they took him and the other paladins who served the Saint of Steel in and helped them out. They feel grateful and obligated at the same time to serve the White Rats as a way of saying thanks. And what happens is that something's been happening in the city that they live in. People are getting killed, beheaded, and he's sort of not involved in what's happening because he's not like an authoritative figure, I would say. Like, he's not like a law enforcement or something where he should be helping to investigate that. But he does follow the White Rats, who they have multiple things that they do. So they act as like healers, they act as lawyers and stuff like that to help those that don't have as much power as others. So one day he escorts one of the White Rats to the slums of the city that he lives in because that White Rat helps with healing, and he escorts him because, you know, there's a killer on the loose, and so he needs to protect him in case anything happens. And when he returns home, he meets Grace, who is our female lead. And after he meets her, then we are brought into the story of there's something political going on, there's also murder, and then Grace, who is a perfumist, like, she makes perfumes, she also gets involved because of the perfume that she makes. Overall, the storyline was okay for me. I gave the book a 3-star. I feel like I was way more interested in Stephen and the side story of finding out who's been killing people. Even like the political sides of things didn't really interest me as much as the murder part that was going on. I don't know why I didn't feel this story as much, and I felt like Grace was just too wishy-washy to me. I was like sympathetic about her situation and like the trauma she went through. I feel like she didn't really grow much at all throughout the story. She just kept going back to the way that she was thinking, and then sometimes she'll show herself as being super strong, and I like, you know, sometimes that is really nice to see because like I like that at first. I like to see her like struggling with her trauma and also being strong and taking care of herself. I felt like it became too like wishy-washy to me as we got further towards the end of the novel. And there was also like some smut in it as well. The chemistry and tension between Stephen and Grace, which led to some smut scenes. Recently, I've just not really been into smut as much for novels. Maybe it's the books I've been reading, like just the descriptions have not been it for me, if that makes sense. So it was an okay read for me. This is a series, and I don't know if I want to continue reading the series for this, just because I felt like it was okay for me. That was Paladin's Grace. The next book that I read was Love Theoretically, and I read this book by borrowing through Libby. I really like this book. It's a romance. I don't read a lot of romance novels, but I've been trying to get into it recently because I'm trying to expand the genres that I've been reading. I found that romance books have like a set template that they go through, and I've seen that in almost every romance that I've read so far. So Love Theoretically is about Elsie Hanaway, who's a adjunct professor of theoretical physics, and she's trying to land a job to become a tenured faculty. She applies to MIT and gets an interview, and when she goes to the interview, she meets Jack Smith, who is an experimental physicist. The reason why there's tension between Elsie and Jack is that Elsie has a resentment towards Jack. So in the past, Jack ruined her mentor's career and undermined theoretical physicists through an article that he wrote in the past. He now is one of the people that is interviewing her, And so she is very much determined to prove to him that she is good enough for him to hire her. And so that's sort of like the summary of the book. I really enjoyed the bickering and the dialogue between Jack and Elsie. And I also really enjoyed how Jack treated Elsie. It's really sweet. I don't know, I just really liked it. I did get a little bit frustrated with Elsie at times because I feel like she became really narrow-minded due to her past bias of what Jack did. But at the same time, I can kind of understand how she feels because Jack, he acknowledges that it happened, but he doesn't do anything about it. For her, that is definitely very frustrating to see that someone who made her world crash down and be made fun of is now like super successful and everyone looks up to him. And that's got to be very infuriating. So that was a 5-star read for me. I honestly want to buy a physical version just so that I can have it on my shelf and read it from time to time, the parts that I enjoyed. The next 2 books that I'm going to talk about is from the Murderbot Diaries. So this is a sci-fi now. Yeah, I'm jumping through a lot of genres. The Murderbot Diaries, I read the first and the second, All Systems Red, and Artificial Conditions. These were definitely fast reads and they were very short. So they were like only like I think like 100 to 150 pages. So they were definitely very fast reads. I gave them both 4 stars. Oh, I forgot to mention that for when it comes to series, usually if I rate them 4 stars, that also means that they're interesting enough for me to continue reading the series. For the first book, All Systems Red, it was interesting to see the experiences that the Murderbot felt and how it responded to the humans or augmented humans when they tried to interact with it. So this is in the perspective of the Murderbot. And so it's very interesting for me to see how the Murderbot put itself down by not having emotions. Like it's saying that I was created through artificial means. I'm not human. I should not be feeling emotions. So we have like, from what I see, we have 3 different types of beings. In this case, we have the Murderbot, or like the artificial beings, robots and stuff like that, androids. And then we have the augmented humans who are humans, but they have added like artificial things to themselves that makes them have like, it's like a mix between a android and a human. And then we have humans. So it's very interesting to see how the Murderbot distinguished itself from the augmented humans and the humans, and it's also distinguished itself a lot from even the androids and the robots around it. Because of the way that it thought about things, it made it hard for me not to think that it has emotions because of how it responds to trauma and discrimination. I also really like the characters in the first volume, especially the humans and how they saw it. Like I can understand how it feels because it felt self-conscious about how humans looked at it, because it's not human. Humans tend to be afraid of it or try to distance themselves from it. Whereas the people that it met in this book very much was trying to connect to it and treat it like it was human. And the Murderbot did not like that at all. The Murderbot was like, no, please don't. Like, I do not want to feel any type of way towards you all. I'm just here on a mission. And then the other thing also is that the Murderbots are controlled in some way through a system. And so I can also see why it feels some type of distance with humans, because while it does have free-forming thoughts and it feels like it has emotions, they're also being controlled by people. So like the system that it works for has a means to control it. Like they can send instructions to the Murderbot and the Murderbot has to follow it, and if it doesn't, then it gets punished or something happens to it, like its memories or its feelings can get rewritten. It makes me sad that the Murderbot cannot trust the humans enough, even though they were very much trying to connect to it. But it's also understandable because from when I was reading this, it went through a lot of trauma. Like something happened to it that left a hole, and that hole makes it afraid that it could hurt humans. Because the Murderbot does have weapons and they act as security guards as well to protect humans. And so it is basically like a weapon. I just find it interesting that it's trying to distance itself from them, like emotionally, and say that I'm not an emotional being. I don't have these emotions. But I was like, it seems like you do. It seems like you care so much because you are creating this distance because you don't want to create that connection, because you're afraid that if you create that connection, you're going to feel some type of way towards these people, and that scares you. That was what I thought a lot about the first book. The summary of All Systems Red is that the Murderbot joins a team of scientists on a distant planet somewhere where they're conducting tests. And as they continue to do more research, they find out that they might have discovered something that a different company did not want them to discover. And so this is like a conflict between humans that the Murderbot is involved in, and its mission in this case is to protect the team of scientists that it was assigned to protect. In the second volume, I feel like we dive further into like a mystery element. So the Murderbot is going to a planet where it's trying to figure out the root of its trauma. So like I said in the first volume, it was feeling trauma about something that made it want to distance itself from humans. In the second volume, it's actually diving into why it has this trauma in the first place. Like, what is the mystery behind this? Why do I feel like this? This sense of uneasiness, what happened? And along the way, it also teams up with humans again and is trying to help humans. Like, it can never escape from humans. Like, it has this sort of connection with humans that it's denying. Humans look to it for help because it genuinely wants to help humans. I feel like the series is episodic. When I'm reading each volume so far, it's different episodes. We have the same protagonist, but it's going through we're meeting different people through the missions that it goes on. And one of the characters that we meet in this series is called Art, and oh my god, it's a research transport vessel, and it's way more intelligent than the Murderbot thought, and it kind of shows that the Murderbot has some sort of discrimination as well, looks down upon a lot of robots or vehicles or artificial intelligence that it feels like is below it. And so Art definitely surprises the Murderbot, and I really like Art. I hope that Art comes back. I just feel sad. I'm like, I want it to come because it's episodic. From what I've seen so far, like each time we go through a different book, we meet new characters. It's not the same character anymore. The Murderbot talks a little bit about what happened in the past, but it's interacting with different characters in the book that it's in. I really enjoyed this series so far. I'm giving it a 4 stars for each one. So book 1 and book 2 is 4 stars for me, and I want to continue reading it. I feel like they're like palate cleansers for me. I've not really read a lot of science fiction. Like, I enjoy watching science fiction, but I don't really read it. So I feel like this is a nice dive into the genre for me that is not too much of an information overload, but I'm enjoying it at the same time. So it's a good start for me right now for sci-fi. That was book 1 and book 2 of the Murderbot Diaries. The next novel that I'm going to talk about is None of This Is True. And this is another thriller. And I read this through Libby. So this book is about Alex Summers, who is a popular podcaster. She goes to a local pub to celebrate her 45th birthday, and she meets Josie Fair. They both have the same birthday, so they're like birthday twins. What happens is that after this encounter, Alex begins to see Josie around her a little bit more in places that she hasn't seen her before in the neighborhood. So like they live like close to each other in some ways. And Josie suggests to Alex that, hey, I want to share my story with you. I think that you will find it very interesting. Like, it might be a different direction for your podcast. And Alex has been looking for something new with her podcast. I think she feels like she's been just doing the same thing over and over again, and she wants to change it up. And so she takes Josie up on her offer to hear Josie's story. And from there, things get very interesting as we start learning about unsettling things about Josie. And I feel like there's a lot of unreliable narrators in here that made the story interesting. The overall vibe of the book to me was suspicious and creepy. I felt like I couldn't believe anything Josie or her family said, but I liked this aspect. I like the idea of unreliable narrators, especially now that I've read a couple of thrillers. Like, it makes you wonder what's true and what's not true. Some of the things that threw me off was that while I enjoyed the unreliable narrator and I felt like the story was interesting at some part, the vocabulary threw me off at times. Sometimes I would wonder why something was described in a certain way or why was this word used. And I feel like because that happened, it kind of threw me off the book sometimes. Like, it made me go, okay, I guess. Like, it just bothered me a little bit. I don't know why. Like, I feel like I usually don't notice those things as much, but although now I feel like I've been paying attention to it a little bit more, I don't know. There's something about the wordings. There's something about the descriptions and stuff that I didn't like as much. And then I also felt like I expected more from Josie, more crazy from her. While it was like creepy to me having someone latch on to you, like how Josie latched on to Alex, I just felt like because of the vocabulary and some of the situations that happened in the book, it really, like, I ended up giving the book a 3 stars. None of this is true. All right, and then the next book that I'm going to talk about is Remarkably Bright Creatures, which I also borrowed through Libby. So this is a fiction. So a summary of the story is that we have Tova Sullivan, who works at the Seoul Bay Aquarium as a janitor. She cleans up the aquarium, she mops, and she helps with making the aquarium look clean for visitors. A lot of sad things have happened to her. So she lost her son, who was only 18 years old when he vanished. And then she recently lost her husband, who passed away. And she's like an elderly woman now who's trying to figure out what she wants to do. Like, she doesn't have a direction in life right now. And everyone who's around her is concerned about her. Like, they want to be there to help her because she's getting older. Her body is not her own anymore. She wants to do the things that she should, like she is used to doing, but her body can't handle that. During this time of her searching for what she wants to do, she meets the giant Pacific Ocean who's living at the aquarium named Marcellus. And we have we have a couple point of views in the stories, and 2 of the point of views is through Tova and Marcellus. I just love the friendship between Tova and Marcellus. It's so cute. They're different creatures, but they understand each other on a wavelength. I don't know how to explain it, but for some reason, Marcellus was brought to Tova for a reason. I feel like Marcellus is used as a character to guide Tova towards what she wants to do. I really enjoyed the story. It's like, I felt like a slow burn slice of life with a touch of mystery in it. I really enjoyed Marcellus's point of view. It was very interesting because octopi are considered very intelligent creatures, and so I just like to see how he looked down on everyone. That was really fun to read. It was very interesting to see the different viewpoints in this story between the characters and how they ended up being tied together. And while there were some loose ends, I feel like I honestly liked it. I liked how realistic it felt because sometimes, even when you want to know how something happened and you want closure on it, it might not happen, and the best thing that you can do is move on. So I definitely got very emotional and I teared up a little bit at the end of this story. I gave this book a 5-star just because the story very much focused on our characters and their development. So this story was very much character driven than plot driven, and I feel like that's one of the things that I really enjoy the most when I read books, is that I am a very character driven person. Having very good characters and having really good plot is, man, that's awesome. For something to drive me to continue reading the book, even if the plot is okay, if I really like the characters, then that will motivate me to continue reading. And I feel like that's what happened to me in this novel. The way that the characters felt and the struggles that they were having at the moment was what really drove me to continue reading the story, and I really enjoyed it. They have a movie out for this on Netflix, so maybe I'll watch it, but I don't know. I feel like it might take away from how I felt for the book. I have mixed feelings when it comes to adaptations of books, because sometimes the movies will pull it off really well, and then sometimes it doesn't, and so it's always a mixed bag for me. So that was Remarkably Bright Creatures. The next book I'm gonna talk about is The Raven Scala. This is an epic fantasy with trials and mystery. In The Raven Scholar, we have different houses that are based off of animals. For example, we have like the Raven Scholar, or we have like the fox. And in this country, they all are ruled by an empire. And the emperor or empress is usually decided through trials. The current emperor, Burson, is part of the Bear House or the Bear Clan. He can only rule for 24 years. And after 24 years, there needs to be a new ruler. So this competition for who will be the next ruler happens within like a week or so. There is a candidate selected from each house or clan to fight and compete for who will be the next ruler. And then we have Nima Kra, who is a Raven Scholar, and she is also the High Scholar to Burson. She gets entangled in the trials because one of the candidates is murdered. This jumpstarts everything. Like, there's mystery, there's action, there's twists. Oh my gosh, there are so many twists. Sometimes I did not even see it, and I was like, what is going on here? I was surprised. I thought that was gonna be very high stakes, but I felt like it didn't live up to that high stakes in the way that I thought it was gonna be. It was a little bit more convenient than I was thinking it was going to be. Because this book is an epic fantasy, I thought that was going to take me a while to get into the world's building and into the characters, but I honestly thought that it was a very easy read for me. I pictured the world pretty well. I really liked the characters. I felt like they were all very unique from each other. Sometimes I felt like their characters didn't match. Like, sometimes they did some actions that I was like, wait, why did you do that? But otherwise, like, they were pretty solid as characters. I felt like the trials were okay. But what really drove me to enjoy this book was the characters. I especially loved Benna. Ruko, oh my gosh, Ruko, who is from the Tiger Clan or Tiger House, reminded me of Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like, every time I read Ruko, I kept thinking Zuko. Maybe if you read this, maybe you'll understand where I'm coming from. Okay, like, his character very much reminds me of Zuko. Like, I just could not stop thinking about Zuko, like, and picturing him as Zuko in this story. I really want to see what happens to Ruko. And I love Kane too. Oh my gosh. Kane's one of my favorites too. I just like his character. Like, he acts so carefree, but, you know, there's something deeper than that. I gave this book 4 stars because while I really enjoyed it, I felt like this book was really much building up to what is going to happen next. And I feel very excited. And I feel a little sad that I have to wait, but I feel so excited for the next volume because I feel like, wow, things are building up. Like, something is gonna happen in the second book. I do not know yet what, but it seems very high stakes to me. I am excited. I cannot wait to read the next one. That is The Raven Scholar. So the next series I'm going to talk about is Slewfoot, which I read through Kindle Unlimited. So Slewfoot is about Abatha, who gets married to Edward. They live on a plot of land that is part of Edward's family's land. But the problem is that the person who owns the land is Edward's brother, Wallace. Wallace rents them this land with the thought that once they pay off a certain amount of money or food to Wallace, Wallace will give Edward the land. And what happens though is that Wallace, my gosh, I hate Wallace. I'm sorry to say. He's such I guess this is good writing, right? The fact that I hated him so much. He made a deal about like tobacco plants or something that he was growing and was hoping that he would make a lot of money out of that. And so he borrowed money from this person from a different town that they live from to grow the tobacco. And then what happens is that the tobacco didn't grow. So now he's in debt to this person. And the only way that he can pay the person back is either through giving up his own land or finding money from somewhere, right? And so he tells Edward that he wants to give up the land that Edward and Agatha live on to that person. This is where the trouble starts. This book focuses a lot on religion, and the religion that they are part of is very misogynistic. I was raging a lot when I read this story. It was very hard for me to see how women were being treated and how religion was being used to mistreat people. And so this is like a horror book. So there is our other character, Samson, who we're not really sure what it is or what he is, because he's like an otherworldly being that appears in Agatha's life. So this book was very slow at first. The majority of the book is just a build-up for us to understand what Agatha is going through, the hardships that Agatha goes through, and then to learn more about Samson, who is the supernatural creature or person or spirit. So we're learning between these two characters, and as it's building up to how Agatha is being mistreated by Wallace and the people in her town, it gets really good. Once I got 20 to 10% of the book left, it was so fast. I think it was like 100 pages left. I could not stop reading. It was just so good. I just read through the book really fast. And I'm wondering if that's the thing with thrillers and horror. I haven't read a lot of horrors in the past, and so it seems very similar to thrillers where they build up very slowly and then it becomes super fast-paced at the end. So that might be the case. I'm not sure yet. Maybe as I read more horrors in the future, I will begin to see this trend as well. I gave Slewfoot a 5-star. It was definitely very infuriating for me, and I'm feeling the emotions right now. But I think it's because with these emotions that I felt for how Agatha was being treated and what she had to go through and how strong she is, that really made the book good to me. Even the characters that I hated, like, they were depicted so well that I really hate you. Like, why can there be no justice in some ways? Like, and so like, it was just, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. It, like, even thinking about it right now, it still affects me. And so I feel like, to me, it was a 5-star. That was Slewfoot. And then the last novel I'm going to talk about is Check and Mate, another Ali Hazelwood book. I just feel like her books are so easy to read, so I've been enjoying it so far. So Check and Mate is a young adult book with romance. I don't read a lot of young adult books anymore because I find like the writing and the mindset of the characters is just a little bit too immature for me now, that it makes it harder for me it makes it frustrating for me when I'm reading it, and I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, but because I'm older, I guess I just can't relate anymore. But I wanted to give this book a try because I've heard good reviews about it. I thought it was also interesting because it's about chess, and I'm like, oh, okay, so how are we gonna involve chess in this? So Check and Mate is about Mallory Greenleaf, who used to be like a chess prodigy when she was younger, and then something happened to her in the past where she just completely threw away chess. She completely cut it out of her life and does not want to be involved with it anymore. Now what she's trying to do is she's just trying to survive. Her mother is very sick. She lost her dad, and she has 2 younger sisters that she wants to take care of. So she sort of takes on this parent role to try and run the family, control the family, and provide for the family. And then she meets Nolan Sawyer, who is the top chess player in the world, and he is very good. He's also been known to have a bad character when it comes to playing chess. One day, she's voluntold by her best friend to join a charity chess tournament, and she agrees to it because it's her best friend, and she beats Nolan Sawyer. But she just leaves. She's like, whatever, like I'm done. She literally just leaves. Like, she's like, I'm done. Like, no. Like, I just literally beat him. I've heard bad stories about him. Bye. After beating him, like, her life basically turns around and she becomes involved with chess again. I gave this book a 5-star. To me, it was so good. It was fast-paced and a quick read. I read it so fast. I think I read it within like 2 days. I loved Nolan. Oh my gosh. Like, oh, he's so awkward. He's so awkward, and he's like the silent type, but he doesn't know how to like say things without sounding mean or harsh. And like he's like silently communicating to Mallory, and I'm like, dude, like you gotta talk to her. And Mallory was a little frustrating to me, but she's only 18. She has like a chip on her shoulder that really affects why she is doing certain things. And although it was frustrating to me that she placed this burden on herself, I was trying to understand why she was like that. I think it was just very hard for me with how hung up about providing for her family. And I'm sure it might be like a teenager mindset and stuff like that. So it was a little bit frustrating for me to continue to see her mole on that and not be able to move past it. Oh, and and one thing about Allie Hazelwood is she loves big guys. Like sometimes the descriptions of Nolan really threw me off. Like, oh, his hands were super huge, or he's super tall, or something like that. Like I think like even for Love Theoretically, it was the same thing. And the fact that she's just really into big men, you know what? Fine. I'll just try to picture him differently in my mind. But I think that's one thing that always throws me off about the books that I've read from Allie Hazelwood so far, even though it's only been 2. If I get past that, like I felt like I really enjoyed the story. It was really good. I wanted more from Nolan and Mallory. I felt like it left you hanging at the end. And I'm glad that it did though, because things were not fully resolved between our characters and the storyline. And so I'm glad that it sort of left things hanging with like a slight epilogue to see what's going on. But yeah, I really enjoyed the story. That was all of the novels that I read for the first half of the year. The next ones that I'm going to talk about is the manga that I read, the manga and the manhwa. So I'll talk about the manga first, and then I'll talk about the manhwa that I read next. I don't have ratings for these, and I would like to preface that if you haven't read the previous volumes, that there may be spoilers that I'm going to be talking about here. So if you don't want any spoilers or anything at all, like please skip these parts and I will see you next time. But if you want to hear my thoughts on these volumes, then please continue watching. So the first manga that I'm going to talk about is The Apothecary Diaries, volume 15. Mau Mau. Volume 15 is really ramping it up for Mau Mau. Like things are becoming more high stakes in the political realm of the inner court and the conspiracies, and how much Mau Mau is falling into danger. I feel like Mau Mau has this personality where she knows that dangerous things are happening, but her curiosity really makes her put herself into danger because she wants to figure out what is going on, even though she's denying that she's curious about what is going on. And due to this curiosity, she's falling further into danger. And I feel like Jinshi is really much the one who is constantly watching out for her back and constantly wants to protect her. And oh my gosh, like this volume really showed to me how much Jinshi will do anything for Mau Mau. I mean, he still has to take into consideration his position and how his actions may affect those around him, but he will try anything that he can in order to help her out. And so I really saw that in this volume, and I'm just like, I cannot wait for volume 16 to come out, because I feel like with every volume, everything just becomes higher stakes. And I don't know what's gonna happen, but wow, it is getting way more intense than I was expecting the series to be. I feel like at the beginning when I was reading the first few volumes, it was mainly just like Mau Mau is just solving these mini mysteries, and whatever is going on in the inner court, it just seems like a lot of drama and gossip between the court ladies and maybe some officials here and there. But then like you start seeing that things are actually starting to connect to each other, and it's starting to show as we move further along. And volume 15 kind of shows that this connection is starting to happen. And so yeah, it is getting really good. I cannot wait. I am on my toes right now. This is why like manga is so hard for me, because it takes so long for it to be published in English. And I'm just like here waiting. And then the next one I'm going to talk about is The Ice Guy and the Cool Girl. Volumes 9 and 10. Oh my gosh, look at this art. The cover art is so, I don't know, again, like I just love the art style for this series. The mangaka is so good at drawing. It's just very pretty, and like even the expressions are really good too. It's very cute. I love it. The vibes with the series continues to be one that makes me want to keep reading it. All I have to say for these 2 volumes is that it's sweet, cute. Himuro and Fuyutsuki are learning to communicate with each other. So they're a couple now in this series, and now that they're a couple, they're trying to figure out how to differentiate between being colleagues and being a couple. And so now they're trying to figure out, how can I communicate more with my partner to do more romantic things together that is separate from family members or from other colleagues. And so, yeah, so it continues to be a cozy romance read. I continue to enjoy reading it. I just love following them, like the little awkward shyness and the jealousies that they have in between. But because they are adults, they continue to communicate with each other in the best way that they can. And so, yeah, so I continue to love this series. I highly recommend it if you're into cozy romance between 2 colleagues. The next series I'm going to talk about is The Other World's Books Depend on the Bean Counter, which is volume 6. Kondo, you, that's my expression. You workaholic, you. It's like, do you not see how much Arash cares about you? And why do you keep working? Why do you keep pushing yourself to your limit and making your partner worry about you so much? I feel like I felt so much frustration for Kondo in this volume. Like in the previous ones, I kind of understood it because Kondo didn't understand that there were people who cared about him, and he wasn't really focused on connections in the previous volumes. But I feel like volume 6 really shows that he's starting to be more aware that there are people in this world that loves him, that cares about him, and wants him to take care of himself. And just, I felt, and his like workaholicness gets in the way, and that really frustrated me in this volume. But it also kind of brought some deepening between Kondo and Resha's relationship. So I actually also like that too, that though there is this frustration, it also allowed Kondo to be able to see Arash in a different light, and see why he's so worried about him. Plot-wise, things are deepening around whatever is happening within the church. It looks like there are dark stuff about with the church and like the powers and magic that is happening in here. There's 2 different sides that I felt. I felt like the plot is thickening in this volume, and then also that there is a development in the relationship between Kondo and Arash. So like because the plot is thickening, Kondo and Arash are continuing to become closer to each other, and you know what, I am all for that. And so yeah, so I cannot wait for volume 7 to come out. It's getting good. All right, the next series I'm going to talk about is Skip Beat, volume 51. Like, oh my gosh, how long I have come in reading this series. I feel like, I would not mind if this series never ends. There's just so much that can happen for someone in Kyoko's position as an entertainer and an actress that's trying to make it in show business. But wow, things are really ramping up and frustrating in this volume. It's funny because that seems to be what's happening in the manga that I've been reading so far, is that with each volume, things are getting intense. I mean, it's funny because while things are wrapping up and becoming frustrating, I feel like nothing is really happening either at the same time in this volume. And I think that's because the mangaka is building up to when the Japanese actors and the American actors start filming together. So basically this arc is about Kyoko joining the Japanese actors to go to America. Well, they will be filming with American actors. And it's very interesting because the Japanese actors very much look forward to working like in Hollywood. That's very much big time for them. It means that they made it big. But then the Americans are having some feelings. They're feeling some type of way and looking down on the Japanese actors. And so there's this sort of tension that some of the Japanese actors are feeling, but others are still like very clueless because they just feel like, wow, I'm in Hollywood. And, I guess that's how I should be treated because I'm not as big name as these Hollywood actors here. So seeing that tension is definitely very interesting, and I am very excited I cannot wait to see how our Japanese actors will show the American actors like, hey, we can do the same thing as you and we are just as good as you as actors. And so yeah, I cannot wait for volume 52. Oh my gosh. I want this build up to be done with already, and I want to see them prove themselves. I want Kyoko to do something. I want them to have to use her because she's going to America to assist her best friend Moko. And so she's like the personal assistant to Moko, and she's there to help Moko with her English and her acting in a way because Kyoko is very fluent in English, but I want Kyoko to do something. I hope that she can show off her acting skills to these American actors, and I'm very excited to see what will happen next. All right, and then the final series that I finished this half a year is Colette Decides to Die. And this is the Japanese versions of the manga. So I am learning Japanese right now, and I actually feel so proud of myself for having finished 3 volumes of this series. I've collected this series a long time ago. There's about, I think, 19 or 20 volumes. And I've been learning Japanese for a while now, but have not really dived into focusing on reading manga or reading Japanese because I did not feel confident enough yet. But now I am really much pushing myself to read while also learning Japanese at the same time, because the main purpose for me learning Japanese is to be able to read manga or also read light novels. And yeah, so I feel so proud of myself for finishing 3 volumes so far, and I'm on the 4th one right now. But anyways, this is so good right now. This series is a very cozy read. It's about Colette, who's an apothecary, and she is so overworked that she just doesn't want to live anymore. And while she's thinking about this, and she's sitting by a well, while she's thinking about this, she slips into the well and she goes, you know what? I guess this was meant to be. I should just not be here anymore. And she finds herself in the underworld where she meets Hades. And so this story is a retelling of Hades and Persephone. I would say that it's sort of like a cozy retelling, slice of life in a way, where you also meet other Greek mythology gods, and there's some sort of fantasy in this as well, but it's not really high stakes. I love Hades. He is so... he's one of my favorite characters. I just love seeing the character development between these 2 workaholics, is what I call them. They are both workaholics. And how Hades, the mellowing Hades, so he was very closed off to her, and then he starts, opening himself up. And the very much persistent Colette, who starts like serving as his apothecary or his healer in a way, because he has like a medical condition where he needs her help, and everyone in the underworld is dead, so there's no doctors there. And when she falls into his world, his underlings or his subordinates take it upon themselves to use her to help him get better. And so she starts serving as his healer or apothecary. It's just so cute. I just love seeing how they start relying on each other and they start learning from each other on how to take better care of themselves and relying on others, like not even just on between them both, but also others around them that actually want to help them, that actually care about them and their well-being. I feel like this is a slow burn romance ish because some feelings are starting to be caught and I am all for it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this series so far. I don't want to build myself up too much, but I do hope that I can finish a couple more volumes before the end of this year. That is Colette Decides to Die. Right, so I'm gonna talk next about the Manhwa series that I read. And I actually finished both of these series already. I read this off of Webtoons first, and then I bought the physical edition because I really enjoyed the characters and the storyline. I especially love Zeronis, and Zeronis, who is the male lead, and how he develops as a character through the series. Our female lead, Ripley, I felt like she did get a little bit annoying and frustrating to me, but at the same time, she was brought into this world and had sort of a biased thought on Zeronis, and she also just wanted to have a peaceful life as a count's daughter, living rich and doing nothing. So when she becomes involved with Zeronis, let me just do like a short summary of what the First Night with the Duke is about. So it's basically about our female lead wakes up in a novel that she read, and she is basically a side character. In this novel, the two main leads are Zeronis and then a different girl. Her name is Etoile. I think that's how you say it. And what really Ripley knows of the story is that Zeronis is a very much possessive, obsessive, sort of like yandere male lead, and she wants to have no part of that. She just wants to enjoy her life as the count's daughter, living rich and doing nothing. But then she gets entangled with Zeronis, and Zeronis falls in love with her. And she is afraid that his obsessive yandere self will come out, and she doesn't want to be a part of that. It also has to do with the past trauma that she experienced in her previous life as well. So I really enjoyed this series. There's 7 volumes out and it's complete. There's actually 6, and then the 7th one is just side stories of the series. I love this series. I'm mentioning that I read this year because I reread it because I like it so much. If you like isekai stories where the character is supposed to be an extra, but then they become the main character, and it's a romance and there's some fantasy in it, then you might enjoy this one. It's very much lighthearted and it's more focused on the characters than the storyline. So if you like stories where the plot doesn't really matter too much, like it matters a little bit but not as much as the characters, then you might enjoy this story. And then the last manhwa that I want to talk about, or last book that I want to talk about, is Why Raeliana Ended Up at the Duke's Mansion. And volume 9 is the last volume for this series. Noah and Raeliana. This is, it's definitely bittersweet for me, but so sweet. I love Noah, and oh my goodness, Raeliana is a queen. The stuff, like the action that she decides to take in this volume, I was very much surprised by, but I also understood why she had to do it. And I really much liked how this series was wrapped up. I don't know what else to say because I really enjoyed it. I wish there was more. I always wish that there is more when I read these sort of stories, because when it comes to these series, while I love the main plot, I also really enjoy the side stories that comes up. And so for this one, there wasn't as much side stories, which was a little bit of a bummer for me. You know, it is what it is, but I'm just happy that things ended happily for Noah and Raeliana. So yeah, so these are the manga and manhwa that I read from January until now. I will plan to timestamp all the books that I've read. If you enjoyed my wrap up, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!